I would draw things on my signs. I would play guitar. I would do magic tricks. I would dance. I like anything and everything, because at the end of the day, I was still me, and I knew that I had value, even if they thought that I didn't because I was homeless.
Welcome to Stories of Creativity. I'm your host, Joe Vertis, and today's guest is Skye Magus. Skye is a multi-talented creator who's lived an intense, fascinating life and has a ton of insights on life and creativity. Skye is a video game developer and game designer, an artist, musician, a ghostwriter. He's made comics, he's worked on screenplays and an anime show, he's rapped on live radio, and worked as a street magician. Having been friends with his mom for quite a while before I met Skye, I had heard about him many times, but what really surprised me when we did meet was how quickly he can spark a genuine connection and the inspiration to get creative on the spot. Skye preferred not to be on camera, so I joined him in picking an avatar for today's interview. Skye was singing while I set up the recording for our call. Oh, that's so sweet to hear your voice. I haven't heard you sing in a long time.
I haven't sang in a long time.
Really?
Yeah, I haven't had my guitar, so.
I wanted to ask you, what drives you to explore new mediums and art forms?
It's a mix of things. Understanding the things that I'm good at. Wanting to branch out into other things that I think are cool.
Mm-hmm.
But also, it's like when my spirit connects with something, I want to be able to get good at it.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to be able to get good at it so that I can nourish my soul. Like, for instance, there is a chord progression on my guitar that I discovered by myself. This is what I call my soul chords, because like it's the thing that nourishes my soul, and it's these chords that like make my soul feel reactive and alive. And I think when I get into different mediums, it's the same thing. It's like this thing where my soul kind of yearns for that joy and happiness that I get from it. So I want to learn it. And as I learn it, like I'll get into it more and more. Like now it's drawing. I've been drawing like web comics and stuff like that, but like there are certain images that I'll see and certain artists that like I'll see that are like drawing phenomenally, and there's something about it that like calls to my soul, and I'll want to emulate and get as good as that in order to feed that part of my soul. And I think that's why I get into different mediums of art and different mediums of like, you know, writing, artistry, game design, like, you know, all of that is because I'm trying to nourish my soul inside of such a way that I can feel the contentment and like this almost like fluttering feeling inside myself.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I so get it. And that's such a perfect way to put it. I don't know any better way to put it, but that your soul is called to it and drawn to it, and you want to feed it with that joy that you somehow preemptively know you're going to get by learning to work in that way with your creativity. That's so cool.
It's the same reason that like I kind of went homeless for 10 years. I wanted to get closer to God, and I wanted to test like a Bible scripture that I had read as a kid, which to paraphrase was basically like, God provides for the birds, gives them food, gives them shelter, gives them all of that. You as man are that much better than the birds, so what do you have to worry about? And I was like, okay, let's test that. And that's why I was homeless for 10 years.
I didn't realize it was 10 years. Wow. Wow. You must have gone through a lot of hard times.
There were definitely hard times, but even while I was going through the hard times, there was a huge part of me that was like, this too shall pass.
Hmm.
And there was a huge part of me that was like, this is a learning experience.
Hmm.
Pay attention. And that's what I did.
I bet you learned a lot.
I did.
And and how did music and all the other things that you get into, how did that support you during the time that you were homeless?
Having a guitar definitely helped with getting fed because I used music a lot to get money, to get
Hmm.
paid. I didn't believe in just begging or just asking for a hand me out. I believed that everything was a mutual exchange. If I
Hmm.
wanted people to support me so that to depend on their kindness, I had to give them something worth it so that they would be more willing to. And that's why I was always um, playing guitar and doing music. And even when I like asked for cigarettes on the street, I would always like offer a magic trick so that they
Mm.
could give me a cigarette. Like I didn't believe anything came for free. So
I really appreciate that perspective and that I think integrity or ethical, I don't know how you would call it.
uh energy exchange, energy.
Yeah.
I always realized that a certain vibration would attract people and a
Hmm.
certain energy would make people more likely to help you. And I had 10 years of experience at the bottom of the bottom, and I saw plenty of people pass me by and plenty of people curse me out and spit at me and all of this. And I saw plenty of people that genuinely cared. And it was, there were days where I hated humanity, and then one act of kindness from some stranger made me believe that it's not all so bad. And then there were days where I just sat and watched, and it was like a social experiment for me. And I went through all of it, knowing that I could have gotten out of it at any point, but like I felt like I was on a spiritual quest at that point.
Hmm.
And my music definitely helped me stay fed, but like it also helped me to kind of put in alignment the feelings and the thoughts that I was having while I was going through it. And yeah,
Wow. I'm kind of speechless. That's just such a profound experience that most people have not had and would never choose. But you found spiritual value in choosing that and learning what you could from it. That's amazing.
mhm.
And also to take those words of Jesus's and put them to the test.
I I don't know. I had read The Alchemist, and that really led me towards the traveling aspect of it because I had always wanted to. I Whereas when, adults ask kids what they want to be when they grow up inside of the classroom, most kids would say like a firefighter or an astronaut or,
Nice.
whatever. For me, it was a traveling guru. That was what I wanted to be. And I didn't even know what a traveling guru was. So, like, I just always kind
Hmm.
of wanted to help people and wanted to embrace that spiritual side and go and just see the world. And so I traveled a lot. I saw a lot of places. I met a lot of people. I
Hmm.
saw how humanity works. I saw the good side of it and I saw the horrible side of it. I saw the facades that society puts on. I saw the way that they treated homeless people, and even a person that you might be friends with that you think is a good person might
Hmm.
ignore or talk crap to a homeless person. Like I was at the bottom of the bottom, and the thing that like helped me out with that was
Hmm.
understanding they don't know my story, so they don't know what they're talking
Right.
about. But also, they might just be having a bad day. I used creativity in every aspect of being homeless, from how I dressed down to when I wrote signs to fly a sign. That's what they call it, where like, you have a sign and you're like, help me out or whatever. I
Mm.
would write inspirational quotes that either I came up with or someone from history came up with. I would draw things on my signs. I would play guitar. I would do magic tricks. I would dance. I like anything and everything, because at the end of the day, I was still me, and I
Wow.
knew that I
Right.
had value, even if they thought that I didn't because I was homeless. So, like in every aspect, I um, used some form of art to express myself. And in every aspect, I knew that even though they looked at me a certain way, I knew that
Mm.
I could very easily be one of them, and I didn't want to. So it was weird because like there was parts of it where I wanted to quit and just go back to being normal. And then there was parts of it where I was like, I don't want to be like them. And so it was really my
Mm.
spirit that kept me out there for 10 years. Like, you haven't learned enough, keep going. And that's what I did. And my art form kept changing. I went to New Orleans for the first time, met a bunch of people, went there the second time, and started interacting with a bunch of people and learning different things. I was in literal abandoned houses and crack homes
Whoa.
talking to people that were druggies and like getting their story, interviewing them. I was, yeah, I was inside of Jacksonville making friends with people, and they took me in and they thought I was cool and they really enjoyed my presence. I was in Montana bouncing from home to home and like getting to know all different types of people. My girlfriend is from South Africa, and I'm learning so much about what South Africa life is like. Even if I were to travel the whole world, I would still be ignorant of something. If I experience as much as I can, I might be able to help a person that's, about to jump off of a bridge because I've experienced too much and like know how to help them. Or I might be able to help someone that's having a drug problem because I've been around people like that. Or like,
Mm-hmm.
I want
Right.
to be well versed just to help people.
Yeah. Beautiful. That's a beautiful motivation. Do you have any particular kind of creative process, or do you always just feel inspired or start making something when you get an inspiration?
My creative process changes from decade to decade.
Mm,
Um,
cool.
so my creative process used to be, let's say, writing a book, right? Writing a novel. My creative process I would zone in on an idea and start writing. And it was like someone was dictating to me what the story was, and I was just transcribing it. So it would just
All
flow through
right.
me.
Mm-hmm.
And now it's uh after learning more about writing and stuff like that, it's, you know, doing the processes, writing out a who are these characters? What are their motivations? What do they want to tackle? What is the end result? What is the ending that you want? And then start from the opposite in the beginning and figure out the steps to get there. It's more crafted inside of like a step by step than anything. But back in the day, I used to just start typing and typing. I did that with web comics. I did that with everything. It
Mm-hmm.
was like because I was connected to something more than me, I was able to just kind of like transcribe things. But the problem with that is once you're in the session of being in the zone and transcribing all of this, as soon as you're done, as soon as you go to sleep, as soon as you put it down, once you get back into it, you have no idea where you're going with it.
Oh,
Uh, so
like you don't
now
feel
I'm a lot,
connected? to it
Yeah,
anymore.
because that specific transcribing you cut off from when you went and smoked a cigarette, drank
Mm-hmm.
something, went and played video games, watched a movie,
Mm-hmm.
whatever the case. So you're
Mm-hmm.
not connected to it anymore. So then I would just be looking at it. I'm like, this is really good. Where do I even go from here? And I would have to wait for the inspiration fairy to hit me again just for me to transcribe some more.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how I never finished anything. Now I'm a lot
Mm-hmm.
more methodical in planning it out and giving certain leeway in between the points that I'm trying to get to. So it might be like, here's where the character starts. Here's where the first threshold is. Here's where the refusal of the call is. Everything in between that is free range, but here's the points that I'm trying to get to. And that just keeps me on track.
Oh, interesting. So you kind of plot it out. You make a plan and sort of a structure for yourself, and then you fill in the structure.
Yes.
So
that way I have the best of both worlds.
Yeah, smart. So do you ever get stuck in creating the structure?
Oh, all the time. I could show you 16 different novels that I'm trying to write right now. 7 different video games that I'm trying to create right now. Like, yeah.
Awesome.
I'm still stuck inside of it, but I have the structure down pat so that I can still hit those marks. So like what I do is like I'll have like here's what the process is. Here's what the hero's journey is. Here's where you start, here's where you finish. And then I might come back to it and be like, okay, I'll write one thing where I'm like, this is what I want to do. And then I'll let it go. And then I'll come back to it. I'm like, okay, so maybe let me fill out, the start, the ordinary world all the way to the first threshold. And then I'll let it go. And then it'll be in the back of my mind and I'll do other things. And then I'll come back to it. I'm like, okay, that's good. That's good. That's good. You know what? Let me change this up a little bit. All right. Now let me do to the second threshold. And like it takes a long time, but like it would take just as long, if not longer, with the way I was doing things. So now it's more structured and I still have plenty of time just to map it out before I even start writing it.
So do you tend to have a lot of different creative projects going on at the same time, and then when you get stuck on one, you just jump over to another and keep working?
Absolutely. I've got things I've started writing from 10 years ago that are amazing that I have no idea where I was going with it. And I have a story that I started 10 years ago, 15 years ago that I showed to a friend and they were like, you need to keep going with that. I was like, yeah, maybe. And then they read some of my other stuff. They're like, you need to keep going with all of these. And so, over hearing that, I was like, okay, so other people do like this. Well, let me add a little bit more. And so now I'm starting to structure those that have been 15 years in the making before I even start mapping it out, let alone writing it. So they might take 20 years for me to write before I'm actually like, okay, it's done. Here's the first draft.
I love that you're going back and giving more love to those older projects too, that, you don't just turn your back in and let them fade away. That's cool.
Oh, absolutely. Because like I've had amazing ideas. And there's a saying that if lightning strikes you, let it and do something with it. And like there's a whole thing with how like Michael Jackson said this, where he was like, when creativity hit, he had to do it right then and there. And they were like, why don't you just sleep and let it, marinate till tomorrow? And Michael Jackson is on record as saying, if I do not do something with this, then Prince is going to have this idea and he's going to.
That's really funny. And actually, I've heard that that's true, that I've heard that multiple people will have the same brand new genius, innovative idea kind of around the same time. It's almost as though an idea wants to be found.
Oh, absolutely. And I've had those it's a thing because
Yeah.
idea is an energy, and it's the mental is its own plane. So
Mm.
if it passes you when you get the idea, it latches onto you. If you don't turn that energy into an actual crystallized form and start working with it, someone else is. I've had that happen with video
Wow.
game ideas I've had for over a decade. I had the
Wow.
idea. I had the idea because Final Fantasy VII was my favorite game growing up. I had a whole idea back when I was, let's say, 19 or 20. Had a whole girlfriend at that time that I showed these ideas, and I wrote them on napkins. And I had this whole idea, which to this day I still remember. And I had the plots of what I wanted the first game to be, the second game to be, the third game to be, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it was Final Fantasy VII meets time travel.
Nice.
Now I'm 35 now, so it's been 15 years since I was 20, and I
Mm-hmm.
first originally had this idea. And Final Fantasy VII Remake came out about 5 years ago, I want to say, maybe a little bit more.
Mm-hmm.
And it was Final Fantasy VII meets time travel.
No way.
I had an idea for the Black experience, and my question was literally, what would happen if the revolution happened and we won? What would that look like leading up to it? What would it look like while we were fighting it? What would it look like afterwards?
Mm-hmm.
3 different games. I ended up planning out this whole thing from several different aspects, from different aspects of life. So there was a woman that was close to the presidential environment
Mm-hmm.
and right inside of their little thing. And she was, I wanted to use something that wasn't so spot on as Black. So I used people that were injected 20 years prior, with technology inside of their cells, and
Oh.
how that would over time evolve into children that were basically part cyborg. They had either super smarts like an IBM, or they had super strength, or they had super speed, or something like that. And how would the world react to that? Which was, they would, you know, hate them. And so they had to hide. And you would have, like, from the different sections, you would have someone that was homeless, you would have someone that was in gangs, you would have someone that was in middle class, you would have someone that was all the way at the presidential, you would have someone in the military. And I was writing this whole thing for this revolution. And then Detroit Become Human came out, and it was literally about androids that ended up revolting against the current structure of things,
Whoa.
because they wanted to be alive. They wanted to be recognized as living beings. And you had multiple choices, and you had several different sections, from this person that came from middle class to this person that was a maid bot to this person that was, and, like, it just, there was one person that was a detective inside of the police force. So it was basically my whole idea, and they did it better than I ever could. Same with Final Fantasy VII.
Wow.
So I was like, okay, cool.
That's amazing. That's really interesting. That concludes part 1 of my interview with Skye Magus. Part 2 will be coming out soon. If you enjoyed this, please like and subscribe to my channel. Thank you so much for watching. Have a beautiful day with your creativity, my friend. See you next time.